Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur on the Big Up platform. We're going to be doing some player ratings, some tactical breakdown of our defeat to Chelsea. Fortunately, Dave cannot join me today. His power is out over in Ireland. I think there's a huge storm that's going on there. So please keep him in your thoughts. And as well as hopefully we have him back for the watch along and everything isn't too crazy for him because I know that can be very boring, very stressful, and very tough to be without the power, especially these days now where we're on our computers all the time, on the phones all the time. You would think that maybe it'd be nice to get a break from that sort of thing. But to be honest, I bet you can only go so long without already starting to crave, to be able to turn on an Xbox, to be able to put on some Netflix or something like that. So there is a spot open in this role. So please, everybody, if you're wanting to be a co-host or if you want to hop on for any period of time during this show, feel free to do so. Come on, have your say. I'm just going to do a quick mic check, make sure I can hear myself because I could tell that sometimes on this platform that maybe the mic doesn't always work. I can hear the mic because earlier in some other streams, I think we had some technical difficulties very early on. But we're going to get straight into this, everybody. This is going to be your tactical breakdown. We're going to be taking a look at some screenshots. We're going to be taking a look at some of the stats towards the end. I think we're going to start first with some of the screenshots. I've been really enjoying that. Sometimes I think we tend to rush that towards the end because we spend so long on the play ratings. Good to hear. Good to see you as well, Ribsy. Thanks for joining me, my friend. And we're going to do things a little bit differently this time, Ribsy. We're going to go for screenshots first, player ratings later, just because I felt like maybe when we had Dave on earlier, when we had Eddie on earlier, it was nice to do the player ratings, just sort of sit back, kind of relax, vent, do all that sort of stuff about the previous game. But I think now that it could be a solo act, you're certainly welcome to come on, Ribsy, if you have the time. But if you're just watching along, I think it might be easier for everyone if we just did maybe some of the tactical breakdown first, and then if maybe some people hopped on later, we'll do a player breakdown or player ratings after that. But let's get this going without further ado, everybody. Really appreciate you guys. If you are watching this along, I can see some people are. Feel free to make yourselves known in the chat like Ribsy does. Ask me any questions, you know, talk about anything really. Talk about the game, talk about life, talk about where your Spurs mind is at. Feel free to ask me questions. Romero, has come out with some quotes. Any bit of participation in the Big Up platform really means a lot to us and really helps us out a ton. So I really appreciate you guys for just making the journey over as you guys do. It means a lot to us. I understand it's difficult to move over from what is the easier platform sometimes, but you guys just really do help out Dave and I a lot by coming over here. So really appreciate you guys. And like I said, without further ado, let me just trying to bring up on screen my presentation for this one, and let's get into it. We scored very nice and early, and with my favorite player as well, Dominic Solanke. Started with a bit of pressure from him here, and this is one of the first of the two Cucurella slips that we were beneficiaries of. You can see there Brennan Johnson able to pounce on it, and some good pressure from Brennan Johnson as well, right? You see him already looking to put the pressure on Cucurella when he receives that. We get a little slippage from Mr. Hairball, and then Brennan Johnson just takes it down the wing. Now, if anybody is watching, listening along, able to see this screenshot here, let me know what you think is. I mean, do we even need to have this conversation? I probably want to just because I like Solanke, but let me know what you guys think of this. Is it the pass or is it the finish? Is it the cross or the finish that's more difficult in this situation? Because I think Brennan Johnson does well. Takes it off of Cucurella, gets down the byline, takes us up the pitch there. But then once you get to this situation, I do think that Dominic Solanke does very well, considering I think the cross comes in very early. Good, right? You want to throw in an early cross, but I think he does really well in kind of his movement here to get in front of Levi Colwell and also just to, I guess, make a reaction towards the cross because it didn't really seem like Brennan Johnson maybe was looking to find Solanke. It kind of looked like Solanke was looking to find more of a Brennan Johnson's cross, if you get that distinction there. Because it felt like Brennan kind of just whipped it in, and then Dominic Solanke sort of just seizes on it, like a tiger trying to look for it in the box, like a fox, if you will. And you could see him, he's sort of just tucking just behind Levi Colwell, gets beyond the little shoulder there, just behind it. Brennan Johnson at this point has already crossed it. So this is kind of what I mean is, Solanke, in my opinion, does really well to get in front and just sort of to sniff this out, if you will. Gets in front of it here, in front of the likes of Levi Colwell, and puts in a spectacular finish. And Spurs are 1-0 to the good, 1-0 up. And it was a terrific goal. Probably something that I've been looking for some time now. I feel like Dominic Solanke just did not given enough service like this in games. I think if we had maybe more of an inkling to give him more crosses, but also if we just had players that were good enough to give him decent crosses into the box, I think we would see a much better version of Dominic Solanke. I think we're only really getting half, maybe three-quarters of what he really can do because I don't know if he really thrives on the type of service that we are trying to give him, where he's dropping deep, bringing others into play. I think he's doing a great job of that. But I think if we want him to be on the score sheet more often, we need to try to whip in some of these crosses into the box nice and early for him. He can sniff them out, get onto the ends of them. And what we're really missing, in my opinion, too, as well, is more of these kind of low driven crosses or just driven crosses into the penalty area for a big striker to get on the end of, for a big striker to cause some havoc to the defenders. And I think Dominic Solanke has been really lacking that this season. And it's part of the reason why I think he hasn't scored as many goals as probably some of us would like, is because I don't think we get crosses like that into the box. And what a surprise, right? He gets this type of service and he scores. What a surprise there. But a good finish from Dominic Solanke. Now let's go on to Kulusevski's goal. Really good finish, by the way, from Kulusevski, in my opinion. Again, starts with a bit of pressure from Spurs. We came out very strong. We came out fast. We were looking to put the pressure on. Goes out to Marc Cucurella. Doesn't slip yet, by the way, but there is some pressure here from Brennan Johnson. Goes, I think, deeper to I think it was on the must have been Jadon Sancho in this situation, coming to receive it. Pedro Porro putting some good pressure on. You could see, like, at this moment in time, it's not like really Chelsea are in that much danger, but they are clearly having to rush some decisions. They're clearly having to rush some passes. They give it here to Enzo Fernandez. Enzo Fernandez, probably in this moment, is not really that comfortable because he doesn't have many easy options available to him. You go over to Marc Cucurella, plays it back to him, and this is where we get the Marc Cucurella slip, ends up slipping and falling. Brendan Johnson, actually, from this moment in time, does pretty well to get out of this situation because he has to receive it, he has to recover it, has to take a touch here to get his eyes up. But then once he does, he has to actually, I think, avoid this Enzo Fernandez challenge, which I missed in the screenshots. I should have probably included that, but does actually pretty well to get around Enzo Fernandez in this situation. Then is able to finally sort of face goal and face the players in front of him. And he does see Kulusevski here kind of receiving it on the half turn, gets it into Kulu. Kulu actually takes a while for some reason. Maybe it was not the greatest of passes, I'm not sure. But Kulu takes a while actually to sort of get this under control and then start to face his man. Once he does, he can see, I think, Dominic Solanke here. Does he need to play Dominic Solanke here? I'm not sure, but I wonder if Solanke in this moment was expecting it, because he did make some motions. That is that if he were suggesting that he were probably very open and looking to score in this situation, because you can see him motioning it for it there, looking to ask for it. Still is, even after Kulusevski is taking some touches in this situation, still is looking for it. Eventually, kind of sort of goes for a clap of the hands, and it's a it's a one of those where maybe as a striker you're looking at him a bit out of frustration. You're kind of like, geez, why haven't you played me there? But Kulu expertly just takes it past even more Chelsea players, and then eventually just gets in sort of a shot between all of those guys that are just in front of him there. It's a very, very good, clever take and finish. Catches Sanchez off guard, catches all these guys off guard. And what I will say is, I wonder if we got away with one though, because Sonny, for me, I remember when we were watching this back on the watch long, I was celebrating really hard. I was celebrating very enthusiastically, but I was a little bit worried as to whether this was going to get called back, because I don't think Sonny is necessarily in Sanchez's eyes, or he's not really in his vision. He's not really in his path to he's not in his way to prevent him from seeing it or to be able to make a save. But he is awfully close to that shot, and he's clearly offsides as well. So I do wonder if maybe we got away with that one, but probably according to the rules, or according to to maybe the offside rules, that especially the way that VAR impose it. I wonder if maybe this was actually within reason to not flag it up. But just wondering if Sonny and Spurs got away with this one here. Good to see you guys, Stevie Fraser, Shemi Tan. Really appreciate you guys. Feel free to ask me anything. Feel free to comment anything. Again, your guys' participation in the chat, sending in the gifts, threads, anything coming on screen helps us out a ton over here. But really do appreciate you guys making the journey over. Stevie Fraser saying I'm here, but it's painful, and that's love. Yeah, I think it's a pain love type of relationship that we often have with Tottenham Hotspur, isn't it, Stevie? Hopefully you're doing okay. Hopefully I can get on some pro clubs sometime soon this week, my friend. Shemi Tan saying, hey, good. Hey, Jack, good to see you. Hope you and Dave are doing okay. Dave's doing the best he can now, but unfortunately he is without power. Because of that big storm that just hit Ireland recently. Shem Tan saying, why do we have a tactical plan every time Ange plays Pep, but no one else? Shem Tan, we are so unbelievably wide open. Yeah, there's some moments that we're going to look at later in this game where I do feel like we were especially wide open, really more so in midfield. And I think that's what eventually led to us starting to have to sit back and at least being forced to sit back. I don't think it's really that intentional by Spurs, but eventually the opposition just start to sort of basically put the pressure on us, especially in possession. I think Chelsea were being very methodical, very careful, and eventually we're just starting to pick us apart with some of the passing switches of play. And Spurs were looking very, very open, especially in midfield, at least in my opinion. But this was Kulusevski's goal. Well taken goal. Really, both of the goals I don't think require like a ton of really expert analysis or anything like that. Just more to kind of recounting and complimenting what I guess happened in the build-up of them. But now we're going out wide to Sancho's goal, and this is later on in the game, around 17 minutes. And in my opinion, this is where maybe we could do a little bit of critique and some criticism here. I think Pedro Porro, I'm not really too sure. I can't really criticize him, but he does leave Sancho pretty wide open, on the touchline here. He is hugging it though, so if you really want to have to go out and stay touch tight to him, you would be leaving some space in behind open. So I guess can't really fault him yet. Maybe in this situation, Pedro Porro, but eventually it gets out wide to Sancho here, and immediately he's looking to take the space. Immediately he's looking to run at the fullbacks, and I think in this moment, this is where we can start to criticize Brendan Johnson looking to track back, but is he really trying that hard? From what we can tell in this moment, trying to track back, I'm not too sure. Doesn't look like he really makes that much of an effort. Kind of more of an effort on the cameras, or maybe to the coach on the sidelines. That at least you're pretending to try to track back and help. Enzo Fernandez makes this run kind of in between Pedro Porro and Radu Dragusin. In my opinion, I think Radu Dragusin ends up actually following this run a bit too honestly, because Enzo is really just looking to catch Radu off, I think, with this run. Even if you play Enzo here, I don't know if he really ends up being in that dangerous of a situation, already. I think Sancho is actually in the more dangerous area of the pitch here in this spot. And I would have probably just maybe not have followed that run as, like I said, honestly, as deliberately as Radu Dragusin did here, because I think it did sort of catch us out. And eventually it led to Sancho being able to take this space here. And once he did take that space, I think Radu Dragusin, like I said, had already committed too much to that run from Enzo Fernandez. So kind of made it hard for him to recover, kind of cut back, go the other direction to then try to intervene and get in Sancho's way here. So, like I said, I just feel like it's a combination of a lot. I think Pedro Porro doesn't really defend well at any period during this moment. He doesn't really get touched tight to Sancho. Eventually, when Sancho starts running at him, he's not really prepared for it. Lets him come and cut on the inside way too easily. And then in the case of Radu Dragusin, I think he followed that run from Enzo a bit too honestly, a bit too committed. Brennan Johnson doesn't really get stuck in there either. So for me, I think it's a combination of all three. If I were to put it on someone in particular more so, I might put it more on Pedro Porro, might put it more on Radu Dragusin if you ask me. Eventually gets past these two. Look again, three players in that situation. You don't, and not one of them really does anything right to try to get in the way of Sancho. Sancho takes good touch after good touch, just sort of carrying it across the top of the box here. And again, you can really just see like Radu Dragusin in this moment. He's really caught flat-footed, or he's just caught again, like I said, way too committed to that Enzo run, where it makes it hard for him to have to change direction and go after Sancho in this situation. Comes across the box, looks to try getting his way. Eventually, Sancho just creates enough space for himself that he is able to get a good shot on goal. And it's a great finish. It's a well taken finish as well. But for me, I think the real bad period is probably this screenshot here. Yeah. Brendan Johnson not committed enough on tracking back. Pedro Porro just the whole time just does not look like a very convincing defender. And then you look more at Radu Dragusin, like I said, way too committed to that Enzo Fernandez run, way too committed to it. Ends up, kind of catching himself out by committing to that run, and leaves himself a bit flat-footed and makes it hard for him to have to change direction and recovery to defend Jadon Sancho there. Thanks so much to other people joining in here. Shemi Tan saying the midfield was so open, center backs running into Chelsea's area to press, our midfielders pressing out on the wings, and Enzo and Palmer and Cacti do are in the middle. Around think where the hell did Spurs players go? I think in the midfield, man, there were some moments where I think Basuma. I don't think this game. I understand. We'll talk about the penalty and other things, and obviously Basuma's performance in general. But there were periods where I think Basuma wasn't really holding the shape like I know he can. Like I have seen him in other games this season. Wasn't really holding that shape in the midfield as much as I think he could have. There are times when he was following runners, following players in the midfield that he shouldn't have, or like kind of with Radu Dragic, maybe a bit too committed to making those kind of defensive movements to try to track players. Because lots of times where I felt like, this huge gap there was between the midfield and the defense. And sometimes there just wasn't even a gap at all. There was just no one there standing in those areas in the center of the pitch to block up some parts of the midfield. So for me, I felt like a bit of it was due to Chelsea being brilliant. Like it looked like they kind of started to figure us out and they started to spread the pitch even more, kind of took more time with their passes, didn't try to rush into things, didn't try to play themselves into trouble, which is, I think, what we wanted. I think we wanted it to be kind of like that first 10 to 20 minutes where it's a bit like a basketball game. Ended up being back and forth, but we are probably better at that type of style than most teams. Like we can sustain that sort of pressure, that kind of intensity of it. But I think eventually Chelsea just started to kind of get a sense of calm in the game. And once they did that, they start to spread the pitch and they start to make things really difficult on Spurs to try to press them and to try to sort of force them into these mistakes. I think in that situation, what you need to do is, again, still maintain your principles, still try to press, still try to put pressure on the ball. But I think there needed to be a bit more of a shape about us. And from what I could tell, at least in that second half in particular, we really were missing that shape in the midfield defensively, really. I don't really mean in possession. I think more out of possession. We're really missing that sort of block to make life difficult for Chelsea because they just found it way too easy to go for some of those big switches of play. But then also just some of the passes into the central areas of the pitch as well were far, far too easy for them. So I get what you're saying, Shem. Good to see you, Moondog. Hopefully you're all right, sir. Thanks for hopping in. Thanks for joining us. And again, any of you guys that have joined us, it really does mean a lot to Dave and I. It helps us out a ton. So we really do appreciate you guys. Stevie Frazier saying, I like Romero's words and Ange and the general backing of him, but do you worry how many times we come out after halftime to see the team be just as scrap as they were in the first half when expecting Ange to lift them? I'm going to need to think on that one, Stevie, because I can also think of games when we come out very quickly in the second half. Well, maybe we didn't play so well in the first half and then we blew teams away. Like there's been some games this year as well as last year when we scored something like 3, 4 goals in the second half. So as much as maybe recently we haven't been that team that has come out necessarily as a better team in the second half, I wouldn't say like it's been the case the majority of the time this season. I could be wrong though. I could be well wrong, but I'm trying to like maintain some sort of sense of maybe recency versus, kind of the whole scope of the season, if you get what I mean. Good to see you though, Stevie, and really appreciate it, man. It's a good question. And I also really like Romero's words. I wonder if a lot of people are starting to take back or starting to think about differently what they had said about Romero and his leniency and his what do you call it? His loyalty, not leniency, is loyalty to the club, right? Because that's been questioned on numerous occasions. And I wonder if now that Romero has called out Daniel Levy, pretty much said he wants to be here as long as he feels like we're headed in the right direction, which I think is a perfectly normal thing to say. I don't think that's in any way a slight to Spurs. I think any player would pretty much say that. So I'm very much in favor of what Romero said, and I'm very happy for him. And also feel like this could be an opportunity for more people to jump on the Rom train. Shem Chan saying meant Caicedo autocorrect is as bad as Shem. You're starting to lose the lunch, maybe is what I can tell. I mean, listen, man, it's been tough. It's been tough. These are not easy results to take. And sorry, just taking some sips of coffee. But these are not easy results to take, Shem. And as much as I'm defending Ange, as much as I'm Ange in, the end of the day, man, the results are just the results. They've just been absolutely shocking this year. 7 defeats already is just absurd. I think Jurgen Klopp in a second season only had like 9 defeats in total. I know everyone keeps mentioning, number of seasons, number of games played, blah, 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 before they won a trophy. I mean, the same time, though, to have 7 defeats already at this stage of the season is very concerning because you just can't expect to be that serious of a team, really. And we can't really expect to be that serious of a team when it comes to some of these cup competitions if we're just going to be this ropey and this up and down. I still have a lot of sympathy though for what Ange has gone through, both in the transfer window, but also with the injury situation right now. At least Stevie Frazier, I'm talking recently, to be honest. Yeah, Stevie, you're probably right. Stevie, probably recently we haven't been that team to come out better in the second half. I don't know, man. Like, is that just the team starting to crap out because of the maybe the tactics, right? Like it's just so intense and it's so much pressing, so much defensive work, so much work in possession that I wonder if they do start to kind of poop out like towards the later ends of the game. Even after a break at halftime, you wonder if they're not able to come out with the same sort of enthusiasm, the same sort of intensity that they would if it were, coming out in the beginning of the game. Because it seems like at the beginning of the games, they're looking to show to Ange, and show to everyone else, like I believe in the manager. We're here together. We're backing the guy. We're not throwing him under the bus or anything like that. You can really tell that a lot of the players, at least in my opinion, it's only my opinion, but I can tell that a lot of the players seem to still be playing for Ange. So I wonder if they put so much effort into the first half, and considering there are already so many injuries, there's so little relief for anybody that they end up then struggling in the second half due to tiredness. There's also apparently a big bug going around. Like that's the reason that Brennan Johnson ended up being taken off in the second half, right? Was because of a similar bug, a similar illness that Solanke might be going through, as well as some other players might be going through. I'm throwing out the excuses willy nilly, so don't get me wrong, though. But I'm still trying to defend Ange as much as I can. Let's go on, everybody, to one of Sonny's chances, one of his many chances that he blew, and it's a tough talking point from this one. I think it's going to lead to probably a very poor player rating, and I'm going to have to give him because had Sonny taken some of these chances, would have been a much different game, a very very different game for us. So one of them was Spurs around 23, 24 minutes here, building out from the back. Van de Ven plays it out wide to Destiny Udogie. Udogie looks to play Sonny here out wide as well. Sonny, an amazing, brilliant first touch to get away from Moises Caicedo here, touches it inside. Looks to find Solanke here, who's coming short, dropping deep to hold it up for him. Plays it into Solanke. Solanke, brilliant turn, kind of receives it half turn, sort of shields his man behind him as well, and then looks to play Sonny after this and does it perfectly. Plays Sonny in behind. You have Brennan Johnson over on the far post there. Can he play him early? Difficult pass, but he probably could have if maybe he wanted to. Decides not to, kind of looks to take his time, maybe think about the opportunity, think about the decision a bit more instead of rushing into it. Takes his time, gets onto the ball, looks up. At this point, I think the Brennan Johnson run, it's already kind of gone. Maybe he had it earlier. At this point, he is going to have to look to probably take it on himself. Eventually, kind of some Chelsea players start to catch up to him. Badiashile, Levi Colwell, and some others. Looks to cut inside, finds maybe a bit of a gap there. He does also have Solanke, you could maybe say at the end if he wanted to, if he wants to play Solanke in and look to score that way. I don't really know what Sonny should have done differently or what he could have done. All I know is that this was probably a chance that should have gone into the back of the net. Whether it's Solanke, whether it's Johnson, whether it's Sonny, this should have gone in the back of the net, and that's down to the decision that Sonny ends up making here. He cuts inside, and in this angle, in this picture, in this moment, you would think it goes in the back of the net. You would, right? It's a picturesque Sonny moment. It's the classic. It's the classic Sonny angle. And usually you just see this tuck into the side netting there around the upper V's, and he just sails it just around the top of the crossbar. Wasn't, I think, a great finish because I think he needs to at least make the keeper work. I probably would have been less upset had just the keeper saved it instead of him just missing it completely wide. I think him missing it completely wide just sort of made it more frustrating considering just this game, and all the chances that we wasted. But yeah, that ends up going wide. And for me, Sonny, It just needs to put that in the back of the net, or one of them needs to put it in the back of the net from Sonny trying to pass it on to them. But yeah, huge chance missed. And in my opinion, should have been a goal. And in this moment, makes it 3-1. Not like the game would have been over or anything. This is Spurs, and this is a team that by no means is watertight at the back or knows how to see out games. But this would have been 3-1 and probably should have been 3-1. Just going to take another sip of coffee and also going to look at Stevie's comment here. I'm actually really calm about. And the stats are good. We can beat anyone. That's really good. We've got mad injuries. It's still early considering how much sorry, needed to be done. Inconsistency is expected. The board haven't backed him. If it's the same this time next season, I'll worry. But for now, I'm okay. I see the good things still. I'm in a similar boat, Stevie. Don't get me wrong, like the inconsistencies and the up and down nature of this team like are really frustrating and it's kind of confusing and it's more frustrating to have to explain on a regular basis, having us, drop all these points and just sort of be up and down like this. But to be honest, did I really expect Ange to win a trophy at Tottenham Hotspur with Daniel Levy as the owner within 2 seasons? I mean, I would like to hope that he can, but I don't know if I really would be that serious. And if I actually stared in the mirror and looked at myself and told myself, you know what, he's going to have his perfect team. He's going to be, delivering, everything that he promised within a season and a half. Yeah, I don't think many Spurs fans would probably say that that's the case. I think, especially being a Spurs manager, it's going to take some time and it's also going to come with a lot of bumps in the road. It's going to come with a lot of times when the manager is going to look clueless. The manager is going to look frustrated. We've seen this with every other manager. Jose at one point looked clueless. Conte looked clueless. Nuno has looked clueless. Everyone has looked clueless. Everyone has been made to look like they don't know what they're doing anymore, been made to look like the players aren't playing for them anymore. So many different factors. So for me, I just am not going to try to lose my cool yet on Ange. I'm very willing and very honest about things that I don't necessarily love about Ange. There have been times when I have criticized him. There have been times and plenty of things that I would criticize him with. It's just at this moment in time, I'm just not in that boat where I feel like I can, be willing to basically call him out and just say that, you know what, I'm done with him. I've seen enough. I'm willing to have conversations about what he does right and what he doesn't do right. I just am not at that point yet where I think that he needs to be fired or needs to be sacked because I think it takes a long time in order to actually start showing the signs that you can win something at Tottenham Hotspur. I don't think it's going to be something that can be done within a season and a half, especially with a guy that's new to the Premier League, especially with a guy that's new to this team and just new to this environment in general, new league, new country. I think it's just I don't know. I think I'm just going to try to be as patient as I possibly can with Ange Postecoglou. That being said, I'm also not going to be completely blind and completely what do you call it? Whatever, yeah, just blindfolded to all the problems that maybe have arisen during his time here that he probably does have some part to play in. And there are plenty of conversations we could have with what Ange doesn't do well and what he does do well. And I'm always happy to have those conversations. It's just, am I really Ange out? No, not at all. Stevie Frazier, honestly, I've got a weird feeling that might win something this year just because our club is mental like that. Yeah, I wouldn't blame us. I wouldn't blame it or I wouldn't blame you. Awful defending. This was a period in kind of 31st minute here where kind of mentioning what I think Shamtan was bringing up earlier, maybe what Stevie as well at one point was too, just kind of about the midfield just being so wide open. In this moment, you can see Basuma, I think, was caught out here trying to put some pressure on the ball in a scenario, or we ended up losing the ball over here. I forget which one it was, but you could see Basuma was caught out really far out of position and Pop Matasar is basically having to sort of stand in both Cole Palmer's pathway, Enzo's pathway, multiple players' pathway. Basuma needs to be busting his lungs to get back into this midfield here because it is just so wide open. And he doesn't actually, in my opinion. I think he sort of kind of jogs his way over. And what happens here is Romeo Lavia gets onto the ball, looks up, trying to find players, and he does have options. He has Enzo Fernandez, he has Cole Palmer, who eventually kind of makes sort of a run to sort of catch Pop Matsar off here, ends up, cutting into the midfield. able to find Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer is able to, get onto the ball and sort of move his way up the pitch here. And what's kind of concerning is just the space in which Cole Palmer receives this, right? Like, I mean, look at that. That is just a scary image. Anytime someone picks up the ball in this type of situation, it's always going to lead to a goal, or at least it's going to lead to a very, very dangerous opportunity. He has Nicholas Jackson making a run in behind. He's got other players now looking to probably make runs after that. They've realized he's received it here. You have Pedro Neto out on the wing looking to make that run. It's a very dangerous situation. And Cole Palmer actually eventually gets to the top of the box completely unchallenged as well. And I think this is just awful defending. I think it's awful defending from Basuma and leaving us completely wide open in the midfield here. But also, once Cole Palmer receives it here, I understand that kind of the defending in this type of system is very difficult. It's very kind of panic, stricken defending. It's often a lot of emergency style defending. But I do feel like Mickey Van de Ven has to try to eventually step up and look to close down Cole Palmer because he doesn't even get challenged. Like there's not even one moment between Radu Dragusin or Mickey Van de Ven to try to put pressure on the ball with Cole Palmer. And eventually he just has a free shot on goal and it leads to a okay Fraser Forster save. Pedro Neto gets onto it, and eventually it leads to us recovering from it. But it actually probably should have been a goal. I mean, you leave Pedro, or sorry, not Pedro, you leave Cole Palmer with that sort of space there. I mean, geez, he usually punishes you with that. He either plays an expert pass into one of his very good forwards, or he gets a little space like this and he usually puts it away. It's such a good shot on him. So this was way, way too dangerous of a moment for me, in my opinion. And I think we have to do a lot better defensively here. Vicario, or sorry, not Vicario, Sanchez being put under pressure once again leads to a good Solanke chance. Sanchez goes long. Pop Batasar receives it. And you can see the image here. It's a very, very dangerous opportunity. There were so many wasted chances by Spurs in this game. Goes into the likes of Sar. Sar plays it into Solanke here. Solanke does really well, flicks it on to Son. I do wonder, though, like in this moment, does Solanke need to play it into Son? I'm not too sure because Sanchez is already caught out. Like Sanchez is already out of position in here, and he's not even in position by the time that Solanke even touches it. But it goes into Solanke. He touches it, flicks it onto Son, and then Son in this opportunity, I would argue, could maybe look to have a shot on goal, but kind of takes his time here. And I think he should have then looked to play Solanke a little bit sooner because he sort of takes his time. He can probably play him here, probably could play him here, eventually does play him. And once it does get to Solanke, you kind of see a blurry image of the ball there where the pink circle is. And once it gets on to Solanke, I just think he doesn't sort his feet out. He doesn't do well enough, really, here, in my opinion, because maybe he was expecting it earlier, but once it does reach his feet, you could see that it's a bit behind him. But I don't think that's really Sonny's fault. I think that's more on Solanke, and he just needs to sort his feet out and still needs to show that he's ready to receive it at any point and gets caught under his feet, and he just sort of trickles it into the goalkeeper's arms. It was another really good chance. So I'd probably say that Sonny's chance makes it 3-1, should be 3-1. This one also probably should have been a goal. That's 4-1, right? Or at least one of these is 3-1. And all of a sudden, it's not like the game is over. Like I said, it's not like, we see out the game and we've won, but it does make it a different game. It does make sort of the Spurs players a bit easier. They're probably not as nervous. They're probably not as, um, you know, let's say anxious about, giving up the lead like they have in other times. So it's just, for me, two really big chances that should go in the back of the net and screams to the wastefulness that this team has. And that's, for me, the biggest issue at Spurs. As much as, again, we can have conversations about Ange, we can have conversations about the tactics. For me, just by far the most consistent issue I've seen so many times when breaking down these games is just wasted chances, man. I mean, we just waste so many opportunities on a regular basis and ends up coming back to bite us where we have the ascendancy. We're in the ascendancy. We're creating problems for the opposition. We're putting them under pressure. We have the momentum and we just never take advantage of it. We never take advantage of that momentum. And then eventually start to peter out. We start to tire. We start to not to be able to attack and to be able to defend and sort of play at that same intensity. And then the other team, just the opposition, just sort of takes advantage of that and they catch us out for it. But if we just take these chances, and these aren't hard chances for me, these are easier chances. I mean, look at the goal that Jadon Sancho even scores, right? Jadon Sancho scores a brilliant goal from distance, and Spurs just can't even score simple tap ins like this. It's just so frustrating to watch, man. It's just a team that I think ends up losing most games, mostly down to the finishing. Like I said, you can have conversations about the defensive tactics, about Ange, game management, time management, all that sort of stuff. We do not do well in that department. But I think the biggest issue for Spurs really is just the finishing. Solanke missing chances, Sonny missing chances, and Sonny has more chances in this game that he ends up missing. But for me, that's the main problem. Stevie Frazier saying 100% Jack, we are mad. Um, Sorry, but I also feel like I just have something stuck in the back of my throat, if you know what I mean. And I'm trying to speak as well as drink the coffee at the same time, which isn't easy. Probably impossible, actually, to drink and talk at the same time. Another opportunity here for Chelsea. Some really poor defending, I think, again. And this is another opportunity that I was kind of talking about with Basuma's defensive positioning. I just don't think it was good enough at times. And he needs to realize like the shape behind him needs to be held in some sort of regard. Look at the gaps that's behind him. Look at the space that's between him and the back line here. I just think it needs to be a whole lot better. Everyone is kind of caught maybe just staring at the ball, looking to put pressure on it. But look at some of the options that Chelsea have here. And Basuma is looking to try to close down, I believe, Moises Caicedo here, looking to try and intercept. And he catches the whole team out because Badiashile plays it into Romeo Lavia, who's coming short to try to, relieve some of the pressure that's on Badiashile. And Romeo Lavia does really well. He plays a really good first time pass, driven pass straight into Cole Palmer there, who's just beyond Basuma as well as Sonny. Sonny and Basuma don't do well enough for me here. Basuma closing down someone that probably doesn't need to be in Moises Caicedo. And also, again, if you are going to try to close down that pass, should probably look to try to get a foot onto this because this actually ends up just going straight through Basuma and Caicedo's legs. And also Sonny is, like I said, caught a little bit ball watching, no idea what's behind him, no idea what's next to him. And this just it gets fired into to Cole Palmer, and it leads to a really dangerous moment here because once Cole Palmer receives it, he has options. He has a good switch of play out wide to Sancho. You can also see kind of Sonny and sort of Johnson sort of in the same body position, kind of just standing, kind of looking to maybe wait for the ball to come to them once we win it back, not looking to try to win it back themselves. But once it does get into Cole Palmer, he's able to play this pass in behind for Nicholas Jackson. And it's a really dangerous chance. Nicholas Jackson gets him behind here, and it actually leads to that really great Radu Dragic tackle. Such a great tackle, goal saving tackle, if you will. And that's part of my frustration with this team is that you end up showing kind of some of this defensive weakness, right? We're not really that intense in the press. Sonny and Johnson, for me, just not doing enough defensively, but also Basuma, in my opinion, just not really in the right defensive position either, and ends up just catching us out. And this probably should have been 2-2 had it not been for some Radu Dragic brilliant defending. But if we had just taken one of those chances earlier, you wonder if, the Spurs team is a bit more intense, a bit more focused, and don't end up, conceding chances like this in the game. I just feel like the lack of finishing and the lack of clinical edge to this team ends up leading to other opportunities for the opposition. It just leads to this back and forth nature of a lot of our games. We were definitely put under pressure kind of in the second half, like maybe Stevie had brought up earlier, or maybe like others had brought up earlier. We really didn't come out after halftime looking like that much of a better team. We were probably a lot better in the first half than really we were in the second. And this is a good opportunity for Jadon Sancho and Mark Cucurella. Once again, I'd say the defending from Pedro Porro and Brennan Johnson really isn't that great here. It's a bit of a dumb and dumber situation for me, where none of them are aware at all of Mark Cucurella's run, and no one's tracking it. They're also not telling each other, listen, if they do play Cucurella here, I'll get him. Brennan Johnson, you stay on Sancho. And there's just no real communication between the two here because once this run it is played to Cucurella, Porro is scrambling, Johnson scrambling, Radu Dragic has to come over to recover. And also Radu Dragic, for me, doesn't really get there quick enough because Marc Cucurella just instantly, expertly plays it straight away back to Jadon Sancho. And just Pedro Porro, Johnson, Radu Dragic, and the whole three of them all just caught out here with a very simple move and a very simple play here by Sancho and Cucurella. This is concerning, I think, defensively to see them get caught out that easily. And this leads to a really good chance for Jadon Sancho that probably should have gone in the back of the net had it not been for a world-class save, really, from Fraser Forster. I mean, look at that hand there. It's a great, great hand. It's a great arm, and it leads to a great save that, I mean, somehow Spurs keep out. So it was really, really brilliant there from the likes of Fraser Forster. But for me, all starts with some really, really poor defending from the likes of Brendan Johnson and Pedro Porro. And for me, I think those two have kind of led to, sort of compounding each other's errors. Like I think Pedro Porro still has so much improvement needed to he still has so much he needs to improve on defensively. And then Brendan Johnson just never has obviously struck us as a guy that is that keen on getting stuck in or is that keen on trying to put in the press or put in the intensity. And I think that's just a situation there where they're just kind of compounding off of each other. Pedro Porro hasn't been defending that well recently. Brendan Johnson, like we heard, probably feeling some illness, feeling a bit sick, and also isn't that much of a willing presser. Just led to a bad combination there down the right defensively. Good to see you, Donovision. Hopefully everything's all right with you, sir. How are we doing? Up nice and early from what I can tell. 7-Eleven, make a wish. Hopefully you're doing okay, sir. But yeah, just again, poor defending from us in general, and a great save from Fraser Forster. Stevie Fraser, to be fair, Forster has exceeded my very low expectations of him. Not sure how much that is saying, but when I'm grasping for positivity, I'll take it. Believe me, Stevie Fraser, like it's a relief that the guys that normally you would expect to be letting you down, that maybe you can't really do much about because their level is their level. They've actually been our best players. Ben Davis been one of our best players. Radu Dragishin, for the most part, has been one of our better players in recent games. And then Fraser Forster has been one of our better players in recent games. And these are all the guys that you would expect would be letting you down in games like this. These are all the guys that you would expect would be probably cowering in these type of games, probably making huge errors, making big mistakes. And as Spurs fans, there's not a lot you can do. You're kind of like, well, they are the backups. They're not really good enough to be here, that type of thing, whatever excuses you want to come up with for them. But the fact that these guys have actually been some of our better players in the team. Radu Dragic, we know, is young, so maybe he doesn't fall in the Ben Davis kind of, Fraser Forster bracket of low expectations. But the fact that they've exceeded our expectations, but then have practically been, in all honesty, some of our better players, I think says a lot to them. Huge character shown by them. Really nice to see that. Really great because, when they're stepping up in times like that, just shows, that old cliche of, when you're called upon, if you can do the job, that's all that matters. Everybody contributes, everybody's part of the journey, everybody's part of the process, all those random cliches. So I think, it's nice to see that they prove that, that they're able to contribute, but it also kind of calls out some of the other guys like Sonny, like Basuma, like Madison, Johnson, Kulusevski, all these guys who, in my opinion, maybe didn't have the best of games in these bigger games and haven't been playing that well recently in general. These are the guys that should be stepping up. These are the guys that should be carrying us through these games. But in fact, it's been Forster, it's been Dragishin, it's been Ben Davis. That should not be the case. It just should not be the case that these are the guys carrying us. And if they are the guys carrying us, does scream of some problems that we must be going through because it's just, yeah, they should not be the ones having our best performances. And completely agree with you, Stevie. Donovision, yeah, the gym closes at 8 a.m. I get a bit early. I get a bit of a lay in. You're a braver man than me, revisiting the nightmare of White Hart Lane. Listen, we were trying to do it tomorrow, but I know Dave wanted to do it. It's just Dave's going through he has a huge storm that's over in Ireland right now, man. So he unfortunately can't make it for this one. And we had to get this done somehow. I think it's just part of the daily duties, part of the grind, part of the schedule, right? Just had to get done. So we're going through it as best we can. Really appreciate you, Donovision, for popping in, and anybody that's popped in at any point, and anybody that's still listening. Really appreciate you guys, and feel free to make yourselves known if you haven't already in the chat. But Donovision, yeah, man, 8 a.m. Why is it closed at 8 a.m. though? Like, that seems odd. Is it like curious what type of gym maybe you go to? I bet you go to maybe more of a real grinders gym of some kind. Maybe where the people really are looking to get into the best peak shape. Because I'm curious why it closes at 8. Maybe they're just looking to save money. Maybe that's because they know that most people are looking to get to work. Maybe after that point, I'm one of those weirdos, right? Where my job ends up starting up really early in the morning and then kind of finishes sort of around mid afternoon and later in the day. So I get to go to the gym around 3 p.m. usually most times. So which is kind of perfect, really, if you ask me, kind of the best time to really do it. Opens at 8 a.m. Sorry, why do I must have been having. I do have a reading disability, so it must have been that I read that as closed at 8 a.m. Yes, or yeah, opens at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. feels like it also is a little bit too late to open. You think like a 6 a.m., 7 a.m. would be nice or ideal. But Donovision, good to see you with us, man. And yeah, and thanks for coming in here right before you head off to the gym, sir. Great save from Fraser Forster. Another good chance here. Sancho, look at kind of just the defending again. Like, this is what I think makes Spurs fans nervous. This is like, I think what Shem Tan is bringing up. This is what makes me nervous. These are kind of part of the conversations I am willing to have around maybe the shape, one and just trying to have them do here, because I understand, like, we're trying to play that offside trap. We don't want to have every player behind the ball, in front of the goalkeeper like we had in like Jose and the Conte days. Like, we want to eventually have the line stop at a certain point. We're not going to have the defensive line just keep dropping back and dropping back and dropping back and dropping back. It has to stop at some point. But what I will say is, I do wonder, like, if teams are starting to catch us out for this kind of narrow shape. Like, you see a lot of teams do this, so there is some sort of reasoning behind it. It makes it a lot harder to have to play through the middle. Can't just play an easy ball over the top. You have to try to play it down the sides and play it down the flanks and then look try to get a good cross in. But I do wonder, like, if teams are just finding it too easy to play these type of passes to Jadon Sancho here. Because if you are disciplined enough and if you are a smart enough player and you stay on sides here and you don't get caught out with the offside trap, I mean, this is dangerous, dangerous stuff to be playing. And I think it just leads to some of those kind of heart and mouth type moments that we have a lot of times when watching this team. And yeah, this is kind of some of the maybe defensive worries that I have with the system, as well as just maybe with this team in general, because this is just a scary, scary picture to be looking at. Gets played into Sancho. Sancho was able to work it out wide and then just try for a left foot across for Nicholas Jackson, which just doesn't reach him at all. It's not really a great cross and doesn't end up leading to any sort of danger shot on goal. But in my opinion, should have maybe been a better chance for Chelsea to put the ball in the back of the net. This is Yves Bissouma. What is he doing here, everybody? What is he doing here? I mean, it's not even that dangerous of a moment. But you have to look at the defending from what I don't know. I'm all over the place with this game, but Pedro Porro, Timo Werner, the picture that even you see there, it's just like Sancho is just causing them problems that whole game. Pedro Porro really not having a great day defensively against Sancho, and it just felt like the wingers, whether it was Johnson, whether it was Timo Werner, really not helping him out either defensively. It's just like I said, dumb and dumber style of defending, but gets played down the line into the box to Moises Caicedo. It looks like a 50-50 here. It looks like both of them could get there. You don't need to clatter through him, though. You just don't. And if you do get there before him, I mean, I just think you have to be in more control. Like, you just know that he's looking for a penalty here. It's just really bad defending, in my opinion. There's just no reason to clatter into him. There's no reason to try to go to ground here in this situation. It's just so poor from Basuma. So poor. And cost us the game, really, because I think Spurs are such a fragile team mentally, and because we were missing chances earlier, and also because Chelsea were creating chances that were looking to get back into the game. This sort of confirmed that bit of momentum that they were starting to build, right? This confirms to them, you know what, we can get back into this game. We are going to win this one. This is a soft underbelly Spurs and all that type of stuff. And it's just frustrating, man. It's frustrating to see the team show this again, this sort of vulnerability, the individual mistakes costing us. It's just really, really poor. And Basuma really hurts us here and leads to a penalty. And for me with Basuma, it's probably going to be a conversation for another time, but I am starting to kind of lose my patience with him. I really like the guy. I like him as a person. I think he seems like a really likable character. Seems like a really nice person, like a just good sort of spirit, good aura of a guy. It's just like, as a footballer, he could be so frustrating where sometimes he looks like one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. And then in other games, you're wondering why he was able to, where you kind of start to see why maybe he was, let's say, criticized by an Antonio Conte for tactical discipline and all that sort of thing, because he makes decisions like this. He does things like this. He, will have a touch where he has the touch of Messi and he, it's glued to his foot and he touches around 2, 3 players under pressure. Then the next time he receives it, it's the touch of a truck and he touches it 20 yards in front of him and he gives it away in a bad area that you wouldn't expect any professional footballer to. He's just such a conundrum of a player, I think, Yves Bissouma. One moment he looks brilliant, the next moment he looks just completely useless. And it's all like in the same game. It's not like it's even sometimes, between different games. It's like in the same game, he'll do something that's completely mind blowing in both regards, either doing something really well that's mind blowing or just shocking. And yeah, Basuma, frustrating player for me. Very, very frustrating player. And you could say this just cost us the game because I think we're just such a mentally fragile team that it just sort of let everybody's heads drop. And like I said, Chelsea already were starting to create some chances, so you probably kind of confirmed the momentum for them, made it a lot easier on them to go on and win it. Another sunny opportunity. It's only 2-2 at this point, as much as I'm kind of doom and gloom already, seeing us concede that penalty. We do have another opportunity for Son here. Ball is played to Sonny here from Radu Dragic. Great first touch. Is able to bring it under control. Looks to bring in Dominic Solanke. Plays the ball, short. Dominic Solanke coming short here. I think Solanke must think that Destiny Udogie is on sides here and looks to play him over the top. Does that sort of clip ball over the top. You can see him going for that here. And he's obviously offsides. Destiny knows he's offsides. Sonny, though, very, very cleverly, obviously sees that, goes on, tells Destiny not to touch it, comes onto it. And then this is the picture that Sonny had before he missed. And again, it's similar to the Solanke, Brennan Johnson moment where you could have played one of those guys in. He probably could play Timo Werner here. At the end of the day, it's just like I brought up earlier. It's just got to go in the back of the net. It just does. Has to go in the back of the net. He has to either find a way to get it to Timo Werner, who could just slot it in, or he has to put it in the net himself here. It's just such a clear opportunity. And I know we were looking at some of the Chelsea chances that also look like really good chances, and maybe they didn't take. I just feel like the chances that Spurs get are so much easier than they make them even look. Like, we seem to make these opportunities look difficult to take. Like, we mess them up so horrifically. We mess them up so terribly that we actually make them look like maybe harder chances than they really are. I think any other team, like this Chelsea team, if they had any opportunity like this in the game, they would have absolutely put it in the back of the net. I don't know if they even had as good a chances as this. And you see the chances that they were able to take. It just, I don't know, blows my mind, really, the Spurs team. It's just the biggest problem with me. It's just we don't take these. These are such good chances. Like, this is the picture you have on screen. If that's the picture you were shown with Sonny in the box like this, with no defenders really around him, he's pretty much close to being one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Yes, at a slightly difficult maybe angle where he's not just completely facing him. But for the most part, you'd be shown this image, you would think it goes in the back of the net. In fact, it's not even Sonny. You would think most Premier League players, most Premier League teams, if shown this image, you would think it goes in the back of the net, and it doesn't. And how many times have we seen Spurs in opportunities like this season, and they don't put it in the back of the net? I just don't know what to make of that. Like, is that, it's not on the manager, it's on the players. Like, the manager can only take them so far. He can only lead them to water so many times. He can only, what is it, the term, right? Lead the horse to water, whatever the term is, right? You can only do that, right? And once they're there, they have to drink, they have to feast, they have to do it themselves. But it really is so consistent how often we mess up these chances. It happens every game. I can't even really name, perhaps the Man City game just recently, the 4-0 win. That might be the only game I could really reference recently, or even in general, that I would say, yeah, you know what, we were clinical on that day. We were taking our chances. I mean, this game, as well as so many other games, we just shoot ourselves in the foot by doing this. Are you taking guests? Donovision, come on anytime, my friend. Come on anytime. Just going through this game, man. We're going to do some player ratings afterwards, and then we're going to wrap this one up. Please come on, sir. Would love to have you. Would love to have you. Be helping me out a ton as well. And said it perfectly. Our own desperation clouds our judgment, and it contributes to our lack of cutting edge and the rush of blood for those Reds. Yeah, we don't have the cutting edge, and we do seem to compound these errors and compound these messed up moments, and then it just leads to like rush decisions, really just lack of composure, and not really just being a smart team. We're just not a smart team, really, at all. And it's just, yeah, how many, we have chances like this on a regular basis every game, and we just seem to pass them up willy-nilly. We have no problem passing them up, and goes over. And this was another chance, right? So 2-2, this is 67 minutes, you go up 3-2. Different game, right? Again, the game's not over. Not saying Chelsea don't grab an equalizer, because we are very leaky defensively, but this would be 3-2. This would be 3-2. It should be 3-2. And you wonder if also the crowd, gets lifted. They get a new lease of life. They're kind of willing the players back into it, a bit of momentum, a bit of energy, and adrenaline that you could pick up from the crowd, right? There's so much that could change from that. And I'm trying to say this again, I don't think we would necessarily go on and win the game, but these are chances that you just have to take, and you do give yourself that chance to go on and win it. And this was another opportunity. It came from a Pedro Porro set piece, a really good cross into the box. Van de Ven pretty much had a clean header, wide open in the center of the box as well. It's not like he's even at an angle or anything, and he just completely misses it. So I think Sonny's chance is by far a lot easier, but this was another one that I mean, I would think that most center backs, like if that were Tarkovsky in that situation, he just absolutely buries that. If that's Romero, I think he buries that. And Mickey Van de Ven, maybe not the best in the air, not the best set piece threat, ends up miscuing it, ends up maybe overthinking it too, because it looked like he had a bit of time to think about the header and just completely missed, yeah, just miscued it and ended up going wide. But it was a good chance. It's a good chance. And again, that could be 3-2 in the 71st minute. And then in the 72nd, 73rd minute, they go on and grab the third. So it's just this is how football works, right? You keep missing opportunities, you keep passing up these great chances. Any good team, any decent team, any okay team is going to probably punish you at some point. And that's what Chelsea did here. Brilliant run from Cole Palmer. As much as I'm going to criticize the pretty useless defending from Destiny Udogie as well as Mickey Van de Ven, because Mickey Van de Ven, as much as everyone tried to rip apart Destiny for this defending, I think Mickey Van de Ven really gets away with it. I think he's everyone's favorite because he's beautiful defender, Rolls Royce, got the speed, and everything. He's a very lovable guy, very likable guy, but he does tend to get away with, I think, some criticism every now and again defensively. Like I brought up earlier, there was that moment where Cole Palmer ended up having that free shot on goal, and Mickey Van de Ven for me is completely responsible for trying to put pressure on there, which he doesn't, and ends up leading to a really good shot on goal. So sometimes I think Mickey can get I don't know how you call it. Sometimes he is a bit of a passive defender every now and again. He's not as aggressive as Romero, and I think sometimes that can come back to hurt him because Cole Palmer here just putting Destiny Udogie through the washing machine. It feels like he just all these different moves and these twists and turns and everything just made life so difficult. But eventually he gets around Destiny Udogie. He gets running at Mickey Van de Ven here, who's starting to track back. And Mickey, like I said, just the whole time doesn't really end up ever looking to make a challenge. Just kind of just continues to track him, continues to sort of jockey and look to just sort of follow his movement, but doesn't ever really look to make a challenge at any point. You can see again, like him just getting twisted and turned and moved a thousand different directions by Cole Palmer. And he doesn't ever put in a challenge. Again, look at these are like multiple still frame images in which Mickey Van de Ven is just not even close to attempting a challenge at any point on Cole Palmer. But don't get me wrong, if you really watch this back like in full motion, I will tell you, man, that the skill that Cole Palmer has is absurd. He does so many different body feints, so many different turns, so many different changes of direction, manipulations of the ball, manipulations with his feet that just catch you off guard. That also he just does in like split little moments without even like really moving anywhere. Like he just does all these different little turns and flips of the ball and tricks here that ends up just really even impressing me. But also you realize here like he's barely even moved like more than 2 feet and he's already manipulated the ball 5 different directions. And it was a pretty sensational bit of skill from Cole Palmer. But if I were to be critical of the defending, I feel like I've seen Destiny Udogie be given the majority of the criticism here. I'd like to pass him on to Mickey Van de Ven because I do think Mickey Van de Ven at some point should be able to make a challenge here to try to get in the way. And eventually, and also Yves Bissouma too, maybe the whole time, just kind of just standing, watching, not really doing much, not even aware of Cucurella as well, and others maybe behind him. So just poor defending from everyone. Really, really fortunate, really fortunate block that as well comes from it. Donovan, if you heard me, man, you're welcome to come on, but I understand, man, if 30 minutes away from the gym, you're probably doing some stuff. So I can keep on going on. And you could also just join me for the player ratings part. If you wanted to do this, the player ratings part, you're certainly welcome. We're only have so many images left really at this point. So if you want to do the player rating stage, certainly welcome to it's the Chippy Chips. Yeah. Cole Palmer, I kind of hated him for that finish, for the Panenka penalty, but man, what a player. What a player. What a player. But yeah, very, very fortunate block for me. Really, really lucky for Chelsea and a great finish from Enzo Fernandez. If you were to be harsh, if you were to be critical, could Pedro Porro have done a bit better here? I'm curious. Ends up kind of doing a bit of an Eric Dyer kind of water balloon, water gun pose, as we have pointed out in the past. And if you get what I mean, because once Enzo does take on the shot, yeah, Pedro Porro doesn't necessarily strike you with a lot of confidence here with the way he looks to make the block. In fact, he looks a little bit scared of getting a kick to the nuts or a kick to the shins or I guess the ball hitting him or something. I'm not too sure, but I think I'm being pretty critical here. Just wanted to point it out if someone wanted to take something from that, maybe you could have done a bit better there on trying to put in the block. This was another opportunity that actually came on later in the game. There's some good chances for this Chelsea team that should have probably put it away. And sorry, yeah, that was the Enzo goal. Yeah, we were just getting caught out here with some really really dangerous moments here. One of them was a ball in behind for I think it was Pedro Neto. And again, this is just Cole Palmer just being ridiculous. Like this pass that he does here. Look at that. It's like a long ball coming from Malagusto. You can see a little image of the ball there that I've tried to circle with the pink. And then Cole Palmer, just this touch that gets onto it. It's like a Zlatan level sort of touch where he flicks it on to Pedro Neto, who's making this running behind. And such a brilliant moment from Cole Palmer, but it did lead to a really good chance here. And once they get into this opportunity, you would like to think it would go in the back of the net. It actually doesn't. Leak goes to Jadon Sancho and he messes things up from there. But this is what I mean, though. Like even this opportunity with this position, this is like the image that Pedro Neto has. I'd still say that the chances that Sonny had and that maybe we had with Solanke and others, I'd say that those were easier chances than even this, right? Like this is a really good chance for Chelsea to go on and win the game. Eventually, of course, they do with another penalty, but you know, it's just the wastefulness on display here in this game was atrocious. But I still think that just as a still image, the one that Sonny had still looks like an easier chance to me than even this one. This is just again shocking from uh from everyone involved. And good chance here for Chelsea. And this was the Sar penalty. Ball gets down the touch line. It gets to Jadon Sancho here. Doesn't play Cole Palmer. Eventually plays Cole Palmer. It's actually the move is at this point kind of dead. The move is killed off. But for some reason, Pop Matasar just kind of loses his head. He's not going anywhere, Cole Palmer. Look at him even here. He's turning away. He's looking to run away from the penalty area. He's looking to run away from the box. He's looking to get out of there, basically. And Pop Matasar, for some reason, just tramples over him. And I don't know why, shoves him in the back, tries to get stuck in. We're desperate. We're trying to get back into the game. There's only 8, 9, 10 minutes left. And yeah, it's just a loss of the head, loss of the marbles by Pop Matasar leads to the penalty, but really, really frustrating. At this point, it's 4-2. Game is pretty much over, right? We've hurt ourselves. We shot ourselves in the foot at this point too many times, but there were actually some more chances that ended up, could have maybe led to an equalizer, could have maybe led to it being a 4-4. Madison, I think, actually unfairly dropped to the bench for this game, but comes on and gets a good opportunity here. He actually does really well to create the space for himself. And if this was, again, a still image for you, James Madison in this particular moment, you'd like to think that he moves the goalkeeper here. You'd like to think that he probably gets it on target. It's a difficult one to probably guarantee that he puts it in the back of the net. It's left-footed. It's his weak foot, but it's still a decent enough chance to try to get it on target. And he ends up just sailing it over the bar, and just shows who my biggest problem with Spurs is just the lack of clinical edge. We are just not a clinical team. We do not put away our chances. And in this moment, I'm not going to even really be that harsh on Madison. I just would say the fact that we don't even get it on target sort of screams to the examples that I'm saying about Spurs, that we just don't put away our chances. This was another one for Sonny. So again, Madison's, let's say he puts that away. That's 4-3. Not saying he should have or anything, but let's say he does. It's 4-3. This was a moment for Sonny. Timo Werner kind of pokes this in behind for him. Really good play by Timo Werner, actually. Sonny just takes a while to get this under control. He's also just being hounded by Badiashile and eventually gets onto it and gets to this moment here where the goalkeeper does well, Sanchez, to come out and put the pressure on. But Sonny is able to get there first and is able to get a left-footed shot on, and it just gets saved by Sanchez. But let's say that trickles over the net. That ends up being 4-3. And then this is the third goal for Spurs, which is great work from James Madison. The goal in which he receives it from a short corner. He comes short, takes on his fullback here, skins him, is able to take it down the touch line into the box, and is able to find Sonny here. And it's very similar to that goal, if you remember, that we had scored against Arsenal, and in which Madison takes it past a couple of players and then into the box and then sort of slides it into Sonny here into a similar position. And it's a great goal, and it's really well done by James Madison. And this is the sort of quality that I think Madison brings, and personally why I think Ange, in my opinion, should look to try to play Madison more than he should Brendan Johnson, because I think Johnson is better as an impact sub in games than actually James Madison is. I think Madison is someone that you should try to get 60 to 70 minutes out of, and then maybe look to take him off if need be because he could tire. Or maybe he's just not as influential after those 70-ish minutes. But I do feel like he just offers so much more quality on a regular basis. And this is the type of quality that you can get with James Madison, right? He slides it across the box to Sonny. It's a great finish, and it leads to a moment where it looks like Spurs can get back into it. But had we just taken these chances earlier, Sonny's from Timo Werner's effort and then Madison's effort, it could have actually been 4-4, just a nutcase of a game. And for me, the big theme of it, yes, we had some ropey defending. Yes, there's some questionable tactics. But for me, like a lot of these games, it comes down to the finishing, man. The finishing is just such a huge problem with Spurs. And like I said, James Madison, the fact that he even creates this goal from this area all on his own is why I wish he played him a bit more often, Ange Postecoglou, because this is what we can get from Madison. He can create a goal from something like this, just an image like this, and all of a sudden it leads to a goal. So really, really good skill by James. And let's go on to the average player positions, then the player ratings, and then we'll get on out of here. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening along. Feel free to participate in the player ratings. If you want to come on screen, you can certainly do that with me. We can have a chat about the game, have a chat about each player, and then also feel free to give me your player ratings in the comments as well. These were the average player positions. Spurs a little bit deeper than the Chelsea team. You can see that by the striker and it's sort of the defenders in general, right? Like, look how the gap between Van de Ven and Romero, you could see the gap between them in the midfield. I think Spurs were sitting deep a lot more often in this game than Chelsea were. The other thing too is you look at maybe the combination between Pedro Porro and Johnson. Normally they're a lot closer to each other, a lot further apart in this game. Solanke clearly dropping deep to try to bring others into play. I think his hold up play is great, but you wish that maybe he could be a bit more involved in the box. Doesn't really get the service that I think he deserves, but we talked about that earlier. Kulusevski operating as that extra forward. He's the creative midfielder, but he's the one that's really looking to be that extra goal threat. Sonny more or less, just sort of playing, out wide, looking to try to get him behind, but playing a tad bit deeper than Johnson is, which is interesting. Maybe he was looking to have more defensive contribution, or also as well, we know Sonny's given more creative responsibilities than Johnson. They seem to like to play to Sonny more to try to get moves started than they do to Johnson. So that also could be part of it, but. Those are the average player positions. You can see with Chelsea, though, they've gone for that like 4 players, to sort of just really spread the back line and also to keep us honest, right? Because we have those inverted fullbacks that you can see with number 23 and number 13, Destiny Dogi and Pedro Porro. But if you put these 4 forwards there and sort of put them just in behind Destiny Dogi and Pedro Porro, and then also have 2 kind of operating in front of the center backs and then leave 2 on the wings, it makes it very, very tricky for Spurs where they have to sort of keep us honest. And it makes it very dangerous in any transition or just in general when Chelsea are looking to build up, but they have those sort of 4 players just all right in front of our back line like that, looking to either get them behind or just make movements off of each other. You can see how that started to work for Chelsea. And I think that even that shape of those 4 players there really started to show more in the second half than it really did in the first half when it started to cause us some problems. I think we'll start to do some player ratings now, and we'll get on out of here. Looking at the expected goals and the big chances, more or less checks up. I'm not saying I'm right or anything. I think there are plenty of different angles, plenty of different takes you can get from this. But 2.9 expected goals to Chelsea's 2.83. Chelsea scored 4. We scored 2. Says we should have scored 3. And we had 6 big chances on the day compared to Chelsea's 3. I feel like we had a lot better chances than Chelsea did in this game. I know we look ropey defensively. I know we look like we could get caught out at any second. I'd still say that Spurs are just not a clinical enough of a team that we can really judge, Ange yet on these type of things. Because yes, he could try to be a bit more conservative defensively, but we are creating enough chances to win games. We are simply creating enough chances to win these games. 2.9 expected goals, 6 big chances. So many chances wasted. It's just such a theme with this team. We continue to waste opportunities. We continue to waste chances to try to win off the game. And I don't know. It's just the big theme for me. Like there's so many different things that you could talk about that went wrong in this game. But for me, that's just been always the underlying factor, always the major theme in all these games is we just don't take away our chances. But we have Donna Vision joining us right before we get into this player ratings, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Good to have the Donna Vision with us, and we'll get into some player ratings here. Hopefully, we can get them on screen here. Yes, Donna Vision.
Lad, how you doing, man? Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Let me put in my headphones. But
yeah, sorry I kept you waiting so long there. I was actually
no, all good, man. I was just flowing along. I mean, let's get into the player ratings, but maybe your big takeaway from this game, man, before we do that. My big takeaway is, yes, I think we could have plenty of conversations about the ropey defensive tactics, Spurs being caught out defensively always has been a factor, and I'm willing to have conversations about Ange with that. But these stats here, man, it just backs up what I was saying earlier, that I just don't think we are clinical enough of a team to really get the whole judgment of the Spurs team. Like, I just think we leave points on the board by not taking these chances. And had we taken some of these opportunities, we would have found ourselves 3-1 up, 4-1 up at halftime. We would have found ourselves 3-2 up. We would have found ourselves, coming back in the game, earlier, sooner rather than later. There are so many opportunities in this game for us to either win this with some good chances or to even come back and get back into the game. There were just chances for 90 minutes, and we wasted them for 90 minutes.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, and it's really tough to see Son at the end of the game just so dejected. Like, I don't know if you saw his interviews and all those Korean fan cams and channels that devoted to Heung-min Son, and the lad sounded very emotional at the end of the game. And at least he's having accountability. I mean, that's the one thing that we have in the Sanch team is accountability. That at least the players, like, they say the right things, they come out afterwards, and like Christian Romero saying that, like, retweeting tweets that he would leave if Angel left, kind of stuff. And like, we have the core that's behind the project. But you're right. It's very frustrating. Like, as just a professional, the way to look at it, like, your job is to go out and get 3 points. And like, I mean, you can highlight like individual errors, and you can highlight like a bunch of individual mistakes that have continuously been happening. Like, I don't want to get too hard on the guy, but I feel like you have to, like, to own accountability, like, to be part of that successful, like, you have to have these hard conversations.
Totally.
Like, Destiny Adoji for me for like the last like 2 months or even this season, like, I hate to say it, like, I know he's coming off an injury. I know he didn't really get much of a preseason, but this guy has really shown that form that people questioned coming into this league. Like, can a 21-year-old actually consistently perform at the Premier League and take, like, let's be real, there's no easy games in the Premier League. Like, every week you're coming up against a world-class winger. Like, each club has got the best infrastructure to get themselves the best players they can for their wage bracket. And when you're coming against the best of class every single week, you have to be on it. And whether he's complacent or whether he's, I have no idea, maybe he's protecting his hamstring. Like, we argue that we haven't seen Brendan Johnson really hit full stride ever since that Arsenal hamstring injury. Maybe it's the same with him. But the lad just looks out of it for me. Like, there's a period in the first half there, Jack, where he gives the ball away, where he does these outside the foot flip passes. Like, I don't know about you, if you like how you're a coach, but when I was coaching the level of the game, it's like there's certain levels and areas of the pitch where you take care of possession, where you can't sacrifice possession. And like, in front of your box and in front of the neutral zone, those are high impact areas where you turn over. You usually consider you can see it a high XG.
Yeah.
And when you're doing outside the foot floppy no look passes, like in the midfield, yeah, I can see one of them. But to do it the next play and back to back, and then to not bust your chops to get back on defense and just kind of just nonchalantly walking back.
Yeah.
And how many times have you seen the lad getting beat, like, just easily, just way too easily, skin by, just like drops his shoulder, and then he does the old shuffle, puts his hands out to try and grab the guy, and then once the goal goes in, he puts his hands up. Like, what the hell? It's like, no, did you stop this? You stop the rot at its source. And it's just it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. And you compound. Sorry, I'm rambling here, but you compound that with Bissouma, and like a 6. Like, I confidently think that I could have put a better shift in than Bissouma in that game. Like the one thing that you don't do, he does over dribbles and over possesses the ball, but you got to run your socks off in that 6th position. You got to cover every blade of grass. How many times was Palmer able to drop deep, pick up the ball, advance the play, and then the press would be 2 or 3 seconds late because the guy leading it, Basum, is just nonchalantly swagging over with the short.
Did you see some of those still images that I had where it's just the gap between the midfield and the defense is just absolutely just absurd, where you're just kind of looking at it and you're like, I'm not, maybe it's me taking an unfair moment. Like, maybe it's not Basuma's fault, but sometimes you're just like wondering, you're like, why is the gap that big? Surely that's on the
No,
number 6 there. Like
lad,
he has to
this is
pretend like as if those passes aren't easy, but he makes those passes into Cole Palmer look wide open. And because they are, I just
Mm.
wonder, like, part of being a number 6 is to even just make it look like that pass is like not necessarily on, or like not necessarily an easy pass. Like you see him, he's like pressing Caicedo, and like Caicedo's next to the center back. And you're like, what are you doing that far out of position and things like that? It's just the difference between him and Bentancur is just so severe for me, man.
You
So
said it. You
severe.
said it there. You said it there. Like how many times have we seen Bentancur cover every blade of grass, and then still in the 80th minute make those marauding runs forward and really initiate the attack? Right. You got that Uruguayan fighting them, and
And he's a lot classier in possession than Basuma is as well, right? That's the big thing. Basuma, like you were saying, turns it over in those neutral areas, turns it over in those
mm,
areas right outside your penalty area that ends up hurting you and costing you.
no, dude, this is elite level sport. Like these are people like livelihoods at stake. Like you are allowed to ask these questions. Like there's nothing overcritical about this, and especially in the run of form we're in now, because right now these players are playing Ange into a form where it's like we're having these difficult conversations, and like it's Ange can't go. Ange can set them up, practice like 4 days a week, give them the elite regimen training and the diet, whatever they need to do. But if they come out on a match day and piss around like that, dude, like it's all out the window. Like
Yeah.
and it sucks because we gave up 2 points when we were, or 3 points when we were in a commanding position up at the very beginning of the game. And you know what people are going to say? You know what word they love to throw at us? It just doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. So it's really frustrating.
Totally, man. Well, let's go through some player ratings, dude. I mean, Fraser Forster, I don't think he did anything really that wrong. Like the Jadon Sancho one, maybe he could have saved, but we're getting the best juice out of the Forster squeeze. So I just don't really know if I can really be that critical of him, to be honest. I'd give him like a 7 or an 8. Maybe an 8 would be harsh, or maybe an 8 would be generous because we did end up conceding 4 goals, and he probably could have done better on one of the penalties. But I can't really be that harsh on Forster because it's not him that we're losing games. He's not the reason we're losing games. It's other players and it's other reasons. So I'd give him a 7.
Yeah. I was gonna give him a 6, but let's split the difference. Let's give him a 7 because like the guy's been solid. Like he's actually been one of our. I think you said it in the stream earlier. He's been one of our steady eddies, and it's kind of crazy. Like the tree, everyone's beating him with a stick, but now he's kind of like our savior right now. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think he needs to be like. If I were to criticize him a little bit, I wish he would like just give the players a bullocking. Like in your last
Hmm.
you're in your last half a season of like maybe professional contract, go out with a bang. Like you're in that leadership group. I know the likes of like Idoji and Basuma and even like in Radev Jagasin would have no problem just having a senior figure like that. Just yell at them and tell them, hey, what's
Hmm.
going on? Especially after that Palmer goal when he glides past our right hand side like it wasn't even there,
Yeah.
and then slots it in. Like if I was a goalie, man, I'd be the first thing I'd be doing is like a Vicario screaming, yelling, "What the hell is going on here? Why is
Yeah,
nobody
man.
closing that down?" Like,
I
but
know exactly what you mean.
yeah.
Onto the fullbacks though, dude. Like I know you had some criticisms for Destiny in this game, probably rightfully so. I don't know about you. I actually felt like Pedro Porro had a worse game defensively in this game than Destiny Udogie did, because you look at the goals that we conceded.
Mm.
Sancho's is Pedro Porro plays a huge part in. Him and Brennan Johnson just don't do well enough, right? He cuts inside. None of them really put in any real effort or challenge to try to get in his way. Radu Dragusin, in my opinion, too, plays a part because he follows Enzo Fernandez's run and catches his whole, sort of momentum the other direction, gets flat footed, and then Sancho from there just has a brilliant goal. But Pedro Porro, for me, plays a part in the first goal. But then he also, I think, was just getting torn a new one by Sancho on that side there. Whereas Pedro Neto over on the right side, I don't really think caused as many problems actually to Destiny Udogie as much as Sancho did to Pedro Porro. Like I just felt like when even going through some of the still images of this game, the majority of the Chelsea chances were through Sancho and through that side of just getting it out wide to him, one-on-one with Pedro Porro. Someone makes an overlap, not really being tracked by Johnson. Just felt like that right side for us, Johnson and Pedro Porro were the side that was really just getting torn down for me, more
See
so
what?
than Destiny Udogie, actually.
Yeah, this is what Angelo has done to us. It's totally reinvented the fullback because you looking at it as like a defensive point of view, which is fair. It's 100% fair. You're a right back. That's your first position is defense. But then I look at it as like, okay, we're playing a 2-5, whatever it is. Like we have so many attacking forwards, and I look at them at their offensive outlet, and maybe Idoshi's early form in the league has kind of like been a stick that we beat him with now because It's like now we judge this guy maybe an unrealistic standard that was like never sustainable
Hmm.
because like he's shown to be world class when he first came into the league. That hey, like this guy, explosive, dynamic. He's got the physical frame and he's got the attacking abilities to put it together. We could have a really special player on our hands. Um, but I see your point. Like Sancho is a
Did
very
you think
very.
one of them had a better game than the other? That's basically what I'm trying to
Oh,
say. Is I think
I
Pedro
thought Poro.
actually had a worse game than
Yeah,
Destiny Udogie.
and I think actually I think the opposite. I think Poro. I think we that's the only side we could create out of. I
Mm,
thought that just his the dynamism of like being able to receive the ball, advance it forward. But I do see your point. Sancho was a very tricky customer. So for me, I was giving I was giving Udogie a 5 and a Poro a 6.
mm.
That's where I landed on it.
I'd give Pedro a 5, and I'd give Udogie like a 5.5. Like, I don't think he did anything. I'd agree with you. I think going forward actually wasn't nearly as good either. And I wish he was a bit more influential going forward. I just felt like defensively, just Sancho for me. I'm just still having nightmares of what he was causing us down that
He only
problem.
turns up against Spurs, man. Like I remember him doing the exact same goal back in COVID against with United. There, he
Mm.
did like the same similar cut in, and
Stevie
yeah,
saying that he thought Udogie started this game pretty okay, and not sure continued though all game. I'm in a similar boat to Stevie. I don't actually think Udogie really played that tremendously, but for me in particular, it just more came down defensively. I just thought Pedro Porro at some point even needed to be taken off just because it was getting that bad for us with Sancho. I'm just crying out for Jed Spence to be given one opportunity. I'm not even sure if Jed Spence will even be that much better defensively than Pedro Porro, but still, I just think he was just getting torn a new one. And it more had to do with just the overlaps. Like every time Sancho got it, he's not really being, put under any pressure. So he's just sitting on the ball and he's just waiting for these overlaps from Cucurella, waiting for these overlaps from Palmer, whoever it was. And it was just way too easy for him, it felt like, down that side. And
yeah. If
the
I
other
could,
problem too is Johnson. Like I said, Johnson was feeling illness, apparently. He's
mm,
under the weather, but also he's not really known for tracking back anyways with any sort of, enthusiasm. So it was just a bad combo to have,
and
someone who doesn't really strike me with confidence defensively, Pedro Porro. He's never been someone who I totally rate defensively. But then also, if he's as a full or as a winger that's under the weather and doesn't really work that hard anyways, that's a bad combo for me. It was a bad
and
combo.
like and let's pay him a little bit of credit here. Like Chelsea are not a horrible team. Like they're billion pounds are coming through now, and Maresca has proven to be quite the tactician. Like you can tell he's got a football brain on him, and you can put some of it down to the tactics. Like it was clear to see him switching to that hybrid three at the back with like a ball playing right back that was switched out for a more dynamic like pace merchant like Gusto who's technical and could take advantage of those half spaces, and then moving Cucurella into that half space. Like if you looked around the pitch, Jack, like Vince told me those still images, there's so many half spaces that he took advantage of where they're creating these overloads and then feeding the ball into that with the pace. And then like even if you had Brennan Johnson or the best defensive minded right winger come back and
Hmm.
help out, it was still targeting our fullbacks. And like we've seen it countless times where opposing opposition will target those fullbacks and target the overlaps, and then we don't have
Yeah,
we're left scrambling, and that's all it takes is just a moment of madness at the back.
totally. And onto the center backs. I mean, kind of like with Fraser Forrester and with in, with the with the center back. I just don't really know how much you can really criticize them. I don't think they were the reason we lost this game. Mickey Van de Ven for me actually probably played a part in the Cole Palmer goal. Like I know Destiny Udogie is heavily criticized for the Palmer goal, but as I pointed out in the still images, you kind of look at Mickey Van de Ven. He never at any point looks to try to get in Palmer's way. Just sort of does that classics, just sort of Eric Dyer jockeying, for
Oh no.
just constantly jockeying, constantly jockeying. It's like eventually you got to make some decision, man. Like eventually you got to try to do something to get in his way, and he never did. So for me, the goal that Enzo Fernandez scores from that brilliant run from Cole Palmer, I think is actually a bit of a 50-50 for me between Destiny and Mickey Van de Ven. I don't think Van de Ven really helps him out there. Romero, he only played for so long, only so much you can really say. Dragishin, like I said, probably could have done better on the goal that Sancho scores. But apart from that, like I wouldn't really say he was the reason we lost this game or anything. And in fact, there was one of the still images that I pointed out that he actually saved us from a goal where they played it in behind for Nicholas Jackson. He made that incredible recovery run to get in front of Jackson and gets that great shot or gets that great block on the shot as well. So I don't even know how much you really have to say about the center backs. If anything, I might even say Mickey Van de Ven actually had a worse game than Radu Dragishin if I wanted to be picky or harsh at all. Onto the midfield, Basuma, man, I can't
Hmm.
even believe it says 6.2. I would give him like a
Three,
4, a
like a
3.
three, man.
And he cost us the game with the penalty. In possession, I can't even say he was really that great. Like, didn't do that much for me on the day that really was worth pointing out. And I'd also say defensively, like, I've actually complimented him in recent games defensively. Like, I even said during the program that there are games when he does really hold the shape well and he does really look like he's in the right areas defensively to get stuck in and also to protect the back line. This game, man, I can't even say we even played with a number 6. There was just no protection for the back line. Basuma was just all over the place
I
defensively
know,
and in
I know.
possession. I think, yeah, probably 3. I don't even know why would I say it for. Like, I don't even know exactly what he did that was even that, what did he even do that was even that,
How many times?
influential in a good way? Like, what did he actually do that was that positive in this game?
Yeah, and you don't want to kick the galleys down, but how many times like are we gonna let this happen? And like you just look at that game an example. There's so many like little still shots you could take of like the counter happening on us, and the guy that's supposed to be in that position is nowhere to be seen. He's up by Dominic Solanke, like trotting back, like he's not even running, he's trotting back, and like like I wanted to give the guy a chance. He's had 2 seasons now. Like I thought Antonio Conte was harsh on him. I thought like him coming in and questioning his professionalism is just uncalled for. But it's clear to see like either you got it or you don't. And I'm sorry, the guy. What do you say? Is 28? Is 28
He's
now?
older than Bentancur, which is wild to think
Yeah,
about.
no. I'm sorry, dude. You can't be caught ballooning. You can't be caught doing whippets like a week before the season starts, and and then be considered part of a leadership group, short a blade on Ange's first day. Like these are the things we'd be willing to forget if the performances came out in the wash, but it didn't happen. And now like you just got to look at it as like a club, and like you're protecting your staff. Like if like we have this dishwasher at my job who's like amazing, and but bless the lad, but it's like, okay, how many times can your dog die? You know what I mean? Like how many times is your grandpa going to be sick? How many times are you going to call in? Like we get it, you're a good guy when you show up, but it's the times you don't that's costing us, and we
Yeah.
have a business to protect. We have a club to protect, and these are 3 points that were thrown away, and there has to be accountability here, and that's the key to success. And so we have to have these difficult conversations. Honestly, Jack, I'm prepared to drop the 20 million on Johnny Cardoso. Give the lad a chance. Maybe we can get him in January. Maybe we can get somebody in January because
No,
we have.
I think Basuma, that might have been his final straw with Spurs fans. I think a lot of Spurs fans might have been the final straw of that game.
Keep him in the squad. Like, sure, he can be a good option off against like a Rennes or like a Avengers or whatever the club it is in the freaking League One. We're going to be playing in the Europa League, and he can come in and be a rotational squad. But as far as to be a starting capacity and to be a mainstay in this first team, no, dude, he's done for me. He's done.
I I don't even know if he can stay around as like a squad player because to be honest, right, he has been more or less that this season. Like I think Bentancur has pretty much taken back that spot in the number 6-year-old. This is my thing with Basuma too, is how long has he had to basically nail down that spot in the midfield with pretty much no competition? Bentancur has been out with injuries, racism, all these sort of things that like, have basically put him out of the team, right? So there's
Yeah.
been countless chances for Basuma. What is it? Bentancur has had his leg snapped like 2 or 3 times basically. And Basuma, that whole time he's been here, Basuma has had opportunities to nail down a spot in this team, whether it was with Conte, whether it's with Ange, no matter what, he's had opportunities. And he's only really been able to show it on a consistent enough basis for like 10 games in the beginning of last season, right? And then
Mm.
Basuma's just been all over the place. He puts in a good display, then the next game he's completely atrocious. Or like I even said earlier, this is my big issue with Basuma. He'll do one thing that's just jaw dropping in a good way, and then 10 minutes later he'll do something jaw dropping in a terrible way just afterwards. And it's just like that sort of player, I don't know if you can really have in your team at this sort of level. Like that's just too costly of a person. Someone who
It's
does
like
something amazing 1 minute and then does something atrocious the next minute. It's like having a Darwin Nunez, playing as like your number
mm,
6. It's just not like it's not feasible, and it's not really. And that's my other thing too, is people say, "Oh, well, he's more of a number 8." And it's like, I get that, but that's only because we're saying that because he's not disciplined enough. Like he's not good enough to actually play as a number 6. Whereas Bentancur probably is better as a number 8, but he's at least intelligent enough and smart enough and composed enough that he can play and operate as a deeper midfielder and still play excellently there. Whereas Basuma, for me, the fact that he can't even play as a number 6 for us, I think just more screams to just sort of his attitude and just his lack of real, like, I don't know what
Discipline, man. He
discipline,
does.
just so many things. But for me, Basuma, I think he's done, man. I think he's done at
Yeah, and like
Spurs.
you, like you brought up a point there, and I'll be I'll be Davo today, where it's like he has that line where he's like, no, I'm tired of the, I'm not doing the Irish accent, but I'm tired of these excuses being handed out to these players, where it's like, uh, he's not playing in his right position, so we have to give him a break. It's like, no, man, like either you play the game, you're a total footballer, you don't, or you don't have that ability and you don't have to possess, and you're looking for an excuse. Like you have this street baller mentality where it's like there's so much swagger involved and there's so much creation and it's like this loose way of playing. Yeah, I get that. But you have to have that switch and you have to have killer mentality where you can switch it on. Like we've seen the likes of Ndembele, Adam Turab, or whatever his name is, that come
Yeah.
in, the Hatim Ben Arfas, right? The players that can ball out on the streets of London on a wet night on the asphalt, who can go play in Rio San Janeiro or whatever it is on the beach. Like those players that have that silky ability that can really just stomp their way through it. Okay, great. You're playing in a professional environment now in front of 60,000 people. You gotta just tighten up, buddy. And it's not there. Um,
No,
and
completely
it
agree.
sucks because he seems more concerned. Like you saw him the first is for I let's get off the Basuma train here, but that first game he comes back. And I thought this guy was cool, man. He had a cross earring in his ear. He had like one sleeve on. His pants were down to his ankles, and he like swagging around the pitch. I'm thinking, okay, we got a saucy guy. And then he can't even connect 2 or 3 passes together, but he's great at pirouetting on the ball and taking on 3 players and doing these flicks and stuff. And nah, man, I'm not having it. Get me like a Paulinia, get me like a Joshua Kimmich, get me someone world class who can anchor up that midfield, who can bark orders for 90 minutes and
Yeah.
just yeah, like I'd even take Connor
That's the other thing.
Gallagher at this
Leadership,
point.
leadership comes from usually your number 6 as well, and Basuma certainly is not that sort of player. In that regard, completely agree. Sarman, also a silly penalty. I wouldn't say it was as bad as Bazuma's. They were both atrocious penalties to concede, but I mean more the timing of which, like, we're already down a goal. Like, I think the heads had dropped. I think Sar was showing that desperation to try to get back into the game somehow. And he's that sort of kid where he is the type of guy that when things seem to get tough, when, your backs are against the wall, Sar seems like the guy who starts throwing punches. Backs against the wall, he's not going to go down without a fight. He is going to try to get himself back into the game. But that just screamed of too much desperation there from Sarr. I mean, Palmer's like turning away from the penalty area. He's turning away from the goal, really, and to
Hmm.
run into the back of him was so silly. But in other parts of the game, like, I think Sarr, once again, he helps us out defensively. I think he is probably one of the best pressers in the team. It feels like we win the ball very high up the pitch early on in games because Sarr is just everywhere, all over the pitch and causing people problems. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't think it's either a game though that we necessarily overly praise either with Sarr. I think it's like slightly better than Basuma for me, maybe like a 5 or a 4. Basuma, I think we settled on like a 3. I think with
Yeah,
Sarr
but
for me, it's
I gave it a 5. I gave Sarr a 5. It sucks though because it's like that challenge from Casado, man, that should have been a red in my opinion. Like I hate to be that guy where it's like to blame the referee and like we had chances to put the game away after that. But like Casado shouldn't have been on the pitch. It should have been a totally different dynamic. Like Romero goes through to block a shot, which is not even a tackling motion, and he gets a red card for it in his own defensive box. And then we get somebody who absolutely runs in with force and clears out our number 8. I don't get it. I don't even get how it was even looked at. But I do think he needs to do more with those chances he turned over when Sanchez kicked him the ball directly. Like how many
mm,
times have we seen like we capitalize on the Cucurella mistakes, but those are the times where we need to be ruthless as well, right? Like
true.
take the one touch, slot it into your wing, and do a typical Ange square. So he covers every blade of grass, but like you said, he's still young and naive. So I think 5 is a fair rating.
This probably speaks to the issues with this performance. I think, again, another player I didn't really love from this game was Kulusevski. I mean, I know his rating is high there because he scored a goal, and it was a great goal by him. It was a great finish. But apart from the goal, man, like, he was frustrating in this game, actually. It was one of those games where I'd even said during the watch along, I was like, man, if Kulu can just play like 50% of what he even normally does, we win this game. But he was just every touch, it felt like just was a little bit off. I remember lots of times moves were breaking down when it was going into his feet. He was, like you say, picking up the ball in good opportunities when we turned it over in good areas, making the wrong decision, overplaying passes, just simply losing it. I think this was a game from Kulusevski that was actually especially frustrating because we were playing well enough to have won this game, but Kulusevski actually never really played well at any period, it felt like, during it. And if he had just stepped up at some point during this game, I do think we would have potentially won this game, tied this game, gotten back into it. But Kulusevski, for me, from my memory, I remember actually being very frustrated with him throughout this game. And I think the 6.8 is very generous. And it's probably just because the goal that he scored is a great goal, great individual moment by him. But if I recall, I remember during the watch along being pretty frustrated with him. So I'm going to give him like a 5 as well, something similar for Sarr, because to be honest, I can't really recall that many creative moments from Kulusevski. In fact, I remember him receiving it in good opportunities to create something, but then it ended up breaking down. So I'm going to give him a 5.
I think 5 is a bit harsh. I think 6. I think 6 is fair. I think, on memory from what you just said there, Jack. I actually, nothing stands out to me. I can't actually think of any moments of creation or brilliance from Kulusevski.
That's what I think I mean. It's like there are times when he could have created something, but then it just, ball got away from him or something just ended up happening that got in his way. So he didn't end up then doing much with it. So as the number 10 as well, man, you got to be that guy that you feel like you can remember constant chances, constant things going through his feet. And I can't say that was the case with him. Sonny, man, I'd go 4.
Wow.
3. Dude, we win this game. Sonny, he should have won this game for us at the end of the day. I mean, if he takes both of those chances, he has to take. Both of them he has to take. And this was being harsh, but even one of them, when he sort of fired it into Solanke, I even think he took too long over that one as well, where he fires it into Solanke and then he almost plays it a bit behind him and then it gets stuck under Solanke's feet.
He trips and falls in the net.
I think Solanke needs to do better there. I think no matter what, as a striker, you got to sort your feet out. But I still think Sonny even kind of messed up that chance. So you look at it, it was at least 2 to 3 chances. 2 chances you should have buried. That's 2 extra goals. And then there were some other ones, even the one Timo Werner played him in at the end, missed it there. I mean, Sonny just chance after chance, 3 to 4 chances.
And we're seeing Sonny do things on Sonny we're seeing Sonny bite at chances and squander them. Like how many times would you see a confident Sonny, don't get me wrong, Badly Chile and who would have been Casado at the time, cuts in, almost puts a postage stamp, which is vintage Sonny. But then even at the end when he's running through with that Udogie chance, Udogie outside, and he takes advantage of that. A normal Sonny either would have slotted that or calmly squared it to Timo Werner. And we're just seeing him getting his wires crossed. And that's just a true, that's the epitome of what's the word? I don't really know, but that's just an example of what our team is at the moment right now, right? That's just who we are, unfortunately. So you're giving a 4. I'd give him a 5. I don't. But at the same time, he has to go and win our game. So I'm giving him a 5. I think 4 is way too harsh just for what he is for a club. But because he did get that goal at the end, he did try. He didn't drop his head or anything. He's our leader. But yeah, he does have to do more.
Yeah, if Dave were on right now, I probably would go even harsher, to be honest, just because I'm not happy with Son after that game. It's just we would have won that game if he was just better on the day. We would have won the game. So I can't really show him a lot of sympathy. As much as I love the guy, I can't show him a lot of sympathy. Johnson, I mean, again, another one of those performances where he ends up playing a part in one of the goals. But apart from that, what did the guy actually do, really? Seriously, the guy is just, for me, so anonymous in games, so anonymous, defensively anonymous, wasn't really helping out Pedro Porro. I understood that he's under illness and feeling he was under the weather, so I'm going to show him some sympathy. But it's another one of those games with Johnson where he's not even making any real runs in behind. There are times too where I get frustrated with him, where we actually do even have a break and there's an opportunity to get running out the back line. And he's jogging out to the wing, jogging out to the touchline. And it's just one of those things for me where it's especially as a pacey player, as someone who offers that pace in behind, you should be busting your tail to look to try to get those moments. And he doesn't, man. He's just I think some people love Johnson, some people don't like Johnson. I'm happen to be in the latter camp. He's a guy that frustrates me a lot. I try to show some sort of sympathy and patience and balance by acknowledging he's still a great goal scorer and he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. But apart from that, man, like there's just so many things I think that he hurts us with. But I don't know. I don't think we lost the game because of Johnson or anything like that. I think we more lost the game because of Sonny. But still, man, he's just so anonymous. He's so anonymous. I'll give him like
Yeah,
a
3.
5 or a 6.
Oh, really? That's way more generous. Like, like
4,
it's the inverse.
4.
It's the
I'd
inverse
probably
for
give him a
me.
4 too. I don't really care. He just doesn't do anything, man. And
Yeah, 3 or 4
even
for
the
me.
cross, when people say it was a great cross, I don't think it was. I think it was a great finish from Solanke, because Johnson, like always, seems to just sort of cross it with no real and kind of, I don't know, design to it. Like it's not like he's like trying to get someone to go to a certain area. It's not like he's trying to pick out a run or anything. Like even the cross that he plays for Solanke, it's like a weirdly hit bouncing cross that he has to sort of perfectly time, get across Colwell for, and put in the back of the net. I don't even know. I'm being really harsh here, but I don't even think the cross was that great for the goal. And apart from that, what else did he really do? So it's like a 4
Forced
for me.
Cucurella into some mistakes, which is funny to see.
True,
Like,
yeah, from the
yeah,
pressing.
yeah,
True, from the pressing.
yeah, and he did frustrate the hell out of that young Spanish guy. The cross was okay. I have nothing wrong with the cross. Like, it's we can be overcritical with the guy, but like his
Probably.
main job is to create on the ring, and he is supposed to be using his pace to get him behind, and we just haven't been seeing that. And yeah, I can give the guy some excuses. He's ill and whatnot. And we are running him into the ground. Let's be fair. Like we were supposed to have an Odebert to split those minutes. We're supposed to have um I don't even know who else. Like even Mikey Moore could be coming on and contributing, right? Like we've seen he's more than capable enough to come on and change a game. So we're kind of we're stressing him his workload, but at the same time, like he's a professional athlete. They're meant to do this. So I'm not giving him any more than a 4.
I probably only criticized the crossing because other games his crossing is so atrocious. So then when he actually did complete a cross, I still didn't want to show a lot of love, probably because I'm a salty man. Last and certainly not least, Solanke. He had that one opportunity, like I said, with Sonny, didn't sort his feet out. He should have buried it, even if it wasn't a great cross to him. I still think as a striker, you just have to sort your feet out. You have to put it in the net. Great goal initially, worked hard, decent build up play, hold up play. But I don't know, man. It wasn't really one of my favorite performances either, though, from Solanke. I don't think we lost this game, though, because of him by any means. I'd give him like a 5, 6, maybe a 6, probably, since
He
he did
got
score the
bullied.
goal. It was a great
He got
goal,
bullied
too.
a lot.
You think he
Like he
got
got
bullied in this
absolutely
game? Interesting.
like he did as much as he could. Like he was winning as much as he was giving. He was giving as much as he was receiving, but that was quite the physical battle. Like when I say bullied, I mean how many times have we seen Dominic Solanke just dominate, being able to hold the ball up, hold
True.
strikers off, center backs off, and like 9 times out of 10 win that ball, turn and advance the ball Kane like. But this game, Battle Sheila gave him quite a game. Like you saw him like there's a period just like around the 38-minute mark where like we had the ball just in front of the technical areas and we were feeding him and he was just being manhandled. Like he got thrown to the ground, no call, no call. And then he did end up
I
winning
agree
the,
with
the
you.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ended up winning the ball like the third time. But that was just such a good physical battle
That's a good point.
all the way through.
That's actually a good point, actually. I do remember in the watch on complaining a lot about him not being given any free kicks or any sort of leeway by the referee. But that would then suggest, right, the only reason I'm complaining about that is because he probably is losing those battles, right? And so you might be right, actually, probably pushed around more than he usually
Unfortunately.
is. Yeah.
So giving as much as receiving, or receiving as much as giving, whatever you want to look at it. Like I think balanced like 5. Like I think like he did get a goal and he did contribute right up to the end. His pressing was amazing. Like I think a lot of those giveaways were from Dominic Solanke. When I say giveaways, like Sanchez, like what a bad goalie. Like holy shit. Like that guy didn't
Yeah,
realize how
he's shocking.
yeah, absolutely. And it sucks we couldn't punish him, right? Like if we had a good Spurs, I should have been the conversation have been like instead of Basuma, how shocking he is, how bad their goalkeeping is, and how like vulnerable their back line is. Because I don't rate any of them. I think Badiashile is susceptible to error after pressure. I think Levi Colwell is just a glorified Max Killman. Like there's no like
That's funny.
there's nothing that stands out to me out of those two. Cucurella, I actually rate Cucurella. I lost a lot of respect for him after the World Cup, after the Euros and what he did. But I actually wanted him when he was at Brighton. I thought he would come in and do a good job for us under Conte. I thought he'd be a good left wing back. But no, there's nothing in that backline that screams like that dominance. And it really dropped points, like you said. We left points on the board, and we really had a chance to expose Chelsea for like the reason why they're not going to win the Premier League and the reason why they're not going to go on and achieve something this season because of like those frailties. And it sucks because I think every Spurs fan could see it too. And just a
Oh,
waste
yeah.
of opportunity.
No, it is. It absolutely is. Donovan, thanks for carrying me through the very end of this, sir. Really appreciate you. Any final things that you want to get off your chest here for this game, and then hopefully we can forget about it like every other Chelsea game.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad the club. I like just saying this quickly. Like, I think I'm glad the club like actually had some guile and like
Didn't
strong.
pull the trigger.
Yeah, yeah. Like that just shows if anything. Um,
What do you make of the recent sort of news coming out? Romero, Ange being backed, by the club supposedly, right? Do you buy into it? Do you think that they are actually doubling down on Ange?
It's funny. You never see Daniel Levy get cut to when we're like on that 10-game heater or like when we're winning or something great, right? It's like the cut somehow like the crowd, like
Pretty funny.
the sniper in the crowd somehow picks out Daniel Levy, and you get a grainy footage of him just scowling away, and he seemed
Yeah.
pissed. Like he seemed livid. Like you could tell, like he invested all this money into the tifo, probably cost him an extra fucking 1,000 quid here, and then and by the way, that was fun. That was hilarious watching Palmer
He's
like
probably thinking about the fine, really, is what it was. He's probably thinking about the major fine, then how much it's going to cut
yeah,
into the beer revenue and things like
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
from the day. Yeah.
yeah. But no, all jokes aside, I think like the club has no choice but to back him. Like every major news outlet now is starting to realize like it's a bit of a weird feeling. I was expecting us to kick us in the dirt, kick us while we're down, but no, everyone's just giving us sympathy. Like everyone's coming out saying, like, do you hear what Carragher said, lad? Where it's like Tottenham are everyone's second team. And it's like we love the way they play. It's like where was this energy like over the last 15 years, man? Like what's going on here? No, I think Ange Postecoglou's went over everyone's hearts, and now it's like
Mm,
you can see the lad has character. You can see the lad knows how to win, and now that we've gotten everyone kind of backing him, there's no choice but Daniel Levy to either like piss or get off the pot. Like I'm
hmm
gonna echo what Carragher. I'm gonna echo what Carragher said here, dude. Like Jamie Carragher, where it's like, yeah, you've built infrastructure. Like you've built the best world class training facilities. Okay, you have like the best stadium in Europe. You have one of the best cash generating machines, and you've taken a club that was like worth like, yeah, it was a multi-million-dollar club, but it was nothing compared to what it is now. We're like a multi-billion-dollar sports franchise. Like to be that in this economy and what's going on in the world right now, like that is amazing. Like he's done business. Like you can't argue the guy's a businessman. He's taken this business to the next level. But now it's time to take that into the first team and start investing and like really like being ambitious. And maybe he's taken it as far as he can for the next guy. He's built
hmm
up a solid club, and now we can get the likes of the Stavely investing in the American funds, or we shake the hand to Dublin and get Saudi
hmm
money or a state backed club or do something because we have everything, man. And
hmm
it's like I'm not even going to use the player argument where it's like Son deserves a trophy because yeah, he does, but the fans deserve a trophy, man. The fans deserve a
Yeah, they
trophy.
do.
One trophy in 20 years. Jack, I wasn't even supporting Tottenham like religiously when we won that cup. Like I knew who Keane was. I knew what Berbatov, what he did for us. I knew what Modric did for us, and I knew like all these greats. But I've never seen us lift a trophy, and like I think that affects our confidence as Spurs fans as well because it's like we don't have that experience. We can't put our chest out at the very end
No,
of the
no, no, it
day,
absolutely does. Yeah.
and so kudos to those who've seen the glory days and have backed us through all this turmoil and these dark days because Tottenham Hotspur, I've watched the history videos and I've watched the clips. Like we were one of the best clubs in the world at our day. Like we were the pinnacle of world football. We were the pinnacle of English football. Um, it's time to get back to that. It's time to get back to that, man. I'm gonna echo Dermot. I feel like Dermot right now. Just
Yeah, yeah, you do, you do. You're giving Dermo vibes. You're absolutely giving
yeah,
Dermo love of Donovan.
we need what does he say? The spirit of Bill Nick. We need the spirit of Bill Nick.
Do, man. We do. Great final
Yeah.
words, man, from yourself. And thanks for helping me out. Best of luck on your gym session later. Looking forward to mine. And yeah, man, really appreciate you. Thanks for going through the suffering with me. Thanks for finishing it out.
Hey, we suffer together.
Suffer together, brother.
Then it's easier for it. So
Alrighty. Appreciate you, man. And I'll see you hopefully very soon. Fan show tomorrow night, by the way, if you are around. And yeah, have a good rest of your day, brother.
cheers, lad. Lots of love. Bye.
All right. Thanks to anybody that's been watching along. Appreciate you, Stevie. Appreciate you, Donavision, who's in the chat as well. A few others, Shemtan, Moondog, and Ribsy. Appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next time. Come on, you Spurs.